All right, today we're going to be going through and setting up the newest, the latest, and greatest version of the AX 2012 Contoso image as it comes from Microsoft. This is the version 3, and latest and greatest means as of August 2013. So what we're looking at right now is the VirtualBox screen, and this is, of course, again, applicable only if you're not running Windows 8. If you're running Windows 8, you can add any Hyper-V image directly into your system and not have to worry about this and go through all the headaches and hassles of doing this. But for many of us right now, Windows 7 is the option. It's actually the preferred option. And you do have to use some other third-party software, such as VirtualBox, to get this up and going. Anyway, with that being said, what I've done is I've created a OVA file, a VirtualBox appliance already. I keep this handy in case I need to just detach the actual hard drive itself, the VHD, and start from scratch for whatever reason. If I don't want to deal with the snapshots or anything else, I can just do this and just copy back in, import the appliance again, and I'm good to go. The whole OVA file, that exported appliance, which, by the way, you would go either import or export in the menu on VirtualBox here. The whole file itself is about 25K, so it's not a big deal to do, and it's something that you can easily share within an organization. If you keep the hard drive attached, the VHD attached, or VHDs, if you attach all of the parts A, B, and C, it's going to be very, very large, and it just becomes kind of untenable, unwieldy, a little too big, especially to share within an organization. So what I'm recommending is you set up the OVA, share it between people, and then have those individuals download or receive a copy of the files from Microsoft's site, and then explode those out and attach the drive, which is what we're going to be doing next. So before we do that, I wanted to take a look at the settings, share my settings with you, what I've got going on here. Your mileage may vary, but so far this is what works for me best. The name itself doesn't make any difference. The OS, just go with what the guest OS is, which in this case for version 2 and version 3 is 2012 64-bit. On the advanced side, I do have a snapshot folder pointing to a separate drive that I use that has my image on it. It has the snapshot folder that it gets created whenever you do expand the files from Microsoft. I do have the clipboard and drag and drop set up as bidirectional, and I personally like to have the mini toolbar shown at the top of the screen. Now, what you're going to need in order for the clipboard and drag and drop to work is the installation of the guest extensions, and we'll get to that in a bit as well. Then as far as the description is concerned, you can put anything in that you want, anything that you need for a reference or whatever. What I've done is just put in some information that anyone that's using my OVA file can go back to as a reference. Steps on rearming the actual OS or rearming the Office software if need be. And then a little bit of information as well on 2 different approaches for adding the right IPs in, or setting up the IPs for the whole thing to work within the VirtualBox environment. As far as the memory and everything else goes in here, what I've got set up is possibly different from what you're going to be using. Now, my system has 32 gig of RAM. I am setting it to use half of that. It's 16 gig. Don't do too much with these. You might want to go ahead and have it set as the hard disk as the first boot device. And again, these are all virtual boot devices anyway, but instead of spinning cycles on trying to boot from a floppy or a CD, a virtual CD at that, just have it go to the hard disk first. The other things I usually leave as default, and no big deal. You can change those, tweak them around as you need. Again, the memory is probably the biggest one that you're going to have to tweak to make right for your particular system, your laptop, or whatever environment you're actually running it on. As far as the CPUs are concerned, there have been mixed results on using one or multiple virtual procs. I have a quad-core i7. I've given it 4, and for me it works. For others, maybe not so much, but this is what I do. You definitely have to, on the acceleration tab, enable the VTX or AMD-V setting. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So that's kind of a must-have. And if it's not working for you, if you're getting errors related to this, you need to go to your BIOS and check your settings there. Make sure that you have hardware virtualization enabled, because if you don't, it's not going to work. Display, I give it 128 meg of RAM. I don't do anything more than one monitor. I do have the 3D and 2D acceleration enabled. Your mileage may vary once again. Remote display, I don't even bother with it. Storage we'll come back to in a moment. Audio, I enable audio. Network, in previous videos, I've set it up as just one NIC. I'm going to be showing you in this video how to set it up with 2 NICs, and then how to set it up where you're assigning all those IPs that would have been necessary otherwise. You would have made host file entries, or one of a number of different ways to make it work. But I'll show you a way to make this work with a secondary adapter. Very close to what the Hyper-V environment does. Serial ports, up to you. USB, I do use it in case I need to connect to an external hard drive or some other device. Shared folders, again, I point to a particular folder for picking things up. And in this case, I am going to change it. I'll show you where that is. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and I'm going to add another direction, or another folder path, rather. And what I'm going to do is point to that other drive, the VM drive that I have, and a temp directory that is set up on there. And I'm going to have that auto mount. So what this means is this is going to show up as a looking like a network drive when you go into VirtualBox and you're firing up your VM. So with that being done, let's now go back to our storage and set that up. By default, we're going to have the VBox guest editions set up as the CD-ROM, the virtual CD-ROM on the IDE controller. And what we're going to do is go to that IDE controller. We're going to add the hard drive that I expanded already from Microsoft, the Contoso VM, the Part A. So I'm going to choose an existing disk. I'm going to go to my drive that I have set up where the files are expanded, drill into that directory, and pick that hard drive. And say OK. And so now the core system is set up. We're still going to have to do some tweaking, but the core system is set up and we're ready to start it. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start to start the VM. It's going to take a little bit of time to get going. We'll give it a bit of spin up time, and then we'll resume in just a moment. All right, now that our system is back up and logging in for the first time here, the password, the user ID, they're all the same as they've ever been. So it's going to be administrator and then pass@word1. Now it's going to take a little bit of time still, especially on your first boot. It's going to take more time than usual, hopefully than usual, to get everything set up. After that, I haven't seen a big performance hit, but what I do like to do is just save the state rather than have to boot it from fresh every time. So while this continues to come up, we'll go ahead and take a look here. And as you can see, it is now running on Windows Server 2012. A little bit different than what you're used to, and it's, for most people, not that user-friendly, perhaps, coming from the Windows 7, Windows Server 2008 world. Nonetheless, what we need to do now is take a look and see what our secondary adapter looks like. We're going to make some changes and then get going with the rest of the configuration here. So what we'll do is I'm going to run the command line prompt. So it was Windows key R and then CMD /F:\on will get you to the command prompt. And then from there, you can do ipconfig, take a look at what your adapter settings are. The other way of doing this, though, that I'd prefer is just to go directly to the command panel, ncpa.cpl, Click OK. It's going to bring up our network control panel, and from there we can look at the adapters that we have and make the necessary changes that will be required to make this work with the NICs that we have set up, the virtual NICs that we have set up. So we see that we have two different network adapters set up here, 8 and 9. For yours it may come up a little bit differently, but for mine it comes up as 8 and 9. What we're going to do is take a look at right-click, status, and then we're going to look at the details and see which one of these has a 10 dot address and which one has a 169 dot address. And this one, as you can see right here, is a 10 dot address. So we're going to go ahead and close that. Close, and then we'll do the same thing on this one. Right click, click on status, and then we'll click on the details. And we'll see it's a 169 address, which really doesn't do us any good. So what we're going to do is reassign that and then add a number of different IPs to that. So we're going to click on Properties. We'll go down to TCP/IP v4, the version for this, and we're going to click on Properties, and then we are going to assign it a static IP of 10.20.12.101. Subnet that we're going to use is 255.255.255.0, and the preferred DNS we're going to point back to itself, 10.20.12.101. From there we're going to add some additional IP addresses, the ones that are already assigned in IIS, to a number of the different websites, help server, and so on. So we'll click Advanced, and then we click Add, and we are going to add 10.20.12.110, subnet of 255.255.255.0, and 10.20.12.111, 255.255.255.0, 10.20.12.112, 255.255.255.0, 113, 10.20.12.113, subnet the same, 255.255.255.0, add 114, 10.20.12.114, subnet 255.255.255.0, and now it's going to be 120, so 10.20.12.120, subnet the same, 255.255.255.0, and one more, 121, 10.20.12.121, subnet 255.255.255.0. So add that, and we say OK, OK, and we get this warning that says that is already assigned to a network adapter. Well, in our particular setting inside of VirtualBox, there is no network adapter number 5. So we can say that, yes, we do want to remove the static IP configuration for that apps and adapter. So we just say yes, close, close, and if we want to go back now and verify our settings, we can do just what we did before, right-click, status, and then we can click on details, and we see now we have the addresses that we assigned to it, all those different IP addresses. Okay, so we'll click close, close, and we can close the network control panel for them now. And what we want to do is take a look at, we can reset our our IIS by going to the command prompt and then typing net stop W3 SVC and then we're going to start it again. So we can type net start W3 SVC to restart our service. Now, by this time, everything that we've done, we've been chewing up a little bit of time here in doing all the setup for the IPs and things like that. By this time, we should have all of our services up and running, but we'll verify before we try and launch AX just to make sure. So we'll go here to the services, and we will scroll down until we get to the AOS service, and we see here that it is in fact running. So we should be good to go ahead and try and launch AX. We could also check and see if the service is running and everything is fine as far as the IPs are concerned by opening up IE, and by default it should be pointing to the Contoso company. Now, it's going to take a little bit of time for it to initially load and then cache the information from AX, but it's going to be done one way or the other. So it's doing that, and in the meantime, what we can do is go ahead and launch AX. And so we'll go ahead and do that at the same time. And we can verify then that AX is running properly, and also take a look at the help server at the same time. So AX is coming up now, and we'll give it just a minute. Try out our help, and then also look at our role center and make sure that it is reading everything properly from the backend SharePoint site. All right, Windows is up now, but as we see, we do have an error that came up, and sometimes that is just a matter of timing. All we have to do is hit the refresh key, F5, or just click refresh, and it will take a little time to spin up again and pull that information in. We can see, however, on the website through Enterprise Portal that it did pull up that information, and all the KPIs and metrics and everything are here and available for us. So we'll go ahead and close that, and we'll wait for AX to do its thing. So we'll see that it is still doing a little bit of loading here, but everything is looking good while it is loading. So we'll give it just a moment to finish up. And then what we'll do is check out the help server to make sure that it too is working properly. Okay, everything is completely loaded now on the role center for the CEO. We've got everything up and going now. The one thing we want to check next was the help file. So we'll go in, we'll just pick something randomly here. We'll go into all vendors for the image and take a look at what the processing looks like, and make sure that the help file does come up. All right, so now we're into viewing all of the vendors for the USMF company, the U.S. manufacturing company. So we'll just hit F1, and we'll wait to see if our help server is working properly as it should, and it is. So we have everything configured to make AX work properly. It's just a matter of one final tweak, and that would be installing the guest extensions or guest additions for VirtualBox so that we can have a little bit better resolution, be able to also do the clipboard copies and things like that. So we're just going to browse here, and we see that we have the CD drive here. This is a virtual CD drive, and we are just going to kick off the installation of the additions. It is going to prompt you for the path to install, and we're just going to go with defaults and let it run. And it will prompt you, as you can see here, for trusting the Oracle install files. I always just go ahead and say trust it so I don't get prompted for it again and again. And it is doing its thing, a little bit of screen flash, and then it's going to prompt to reboot. So we'll go ahead and reboot, and then pick up from there and wrap up this particular video. All right, we have now rebooted and we are back in. Let's go ahead and log back in here. And the last thing that we're going to be looking at is the Office and what to do about Office, because in the new version that we have here, both in version 2 and version 3 of the VM, for whatever reason, for some odd reason, we are unable to get the Office products working properly, and it shows up as an unactivated application with a prompt to enter a new key. I'll show you what I mean. Just launching Excel, it will take us in, and once this loads up, we'll go to a blank workbook, and you'll see right away that we've got product activation failed. And it's telling us that this product is not activated. Change the product key. Well, unfortunately, we don't have another product key. Microsoft does not provide one, and unfortunately, they won't be providing one. So what we're going to have to do is a bit of a workaround. It's a temporary thing, unfortunately, until I can find out, or someone else can find out, how to ensure that the product is properly activated. I believe this is only an issue under VirtualBox, and I'm not sure if there are any other workarounds available. But what I found to work for me is to go to the command prompt, and by the way, that /F:\on will give us a little bit of a help here, assist with command completion on at the command line. What I found is that the best thing to do is to do the rearm, which is essentially like with the operating system, we come with 329 days out of the box, and if you use the rearm command for rearming the operating system, that slmgr/rearm, it buys us another 180 days. There is a similar tool for the Office application. And unfortunately, it does not give us the 180 days or anything like that. I believe it gives us an additional 30 days. But it's the best that we can do for right now. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and change directory. And we're going to, we're going to go to the program files. So I'll start to say program, like there, type in program. Then I'll hit Control-D, and we can cycle in quickly through the directories. And then another slash, we'll say it's Microsoft, and hit the Control-D until we get to Office. And /Office 15, Control-D again, and hit Enter. And now we're in that directory. And now we're going to run C script, and the name of the script is OSPP, and we can hit Control-F to look for the file. And you see we've got several here. The one that we want is at VBS. But you can see if we hit F, Control-F, it toggles through the different available files. Control-D for directory, Control-F for file name auto-completion. Neat little tip for you. Space /rearm. Hit Enter. Let it process and do its thing. And then we'll go back into Excel to verify that what we have is now at least a temporary reprieve from the activation with the Office suite. The one weird exception to this is Visio is activated. So I'm not really sure what's going on, why Visio has been activated, but Office is not. So the command is completed. We'll go ahead and exit out of this, and we'll go ahead and launch Excel again. And go to a blank workbook. And as you can see, we don't have that issue any longer. So One little additional thing that we have to do, I'll put up all these little tips in a little overhead at the end here, so you can pause it and copy this down if you want to. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell on what we have to do to get the version 3, version 2 versions of the Contoso image for AX 2012 R2 up and running within VirtualBox. I hope you found this helpful.